Welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity, and Love. I'm your host, Michael Andre Ford. I help people let go to meet, feel, hear, see angels, get answers, but that's not important right now. What is important, subscribe, like, share, and comment. Even though our guest from Hawaii has not yet said anything you can comment on, trust me, you're going to want to. She's awesome. She's had a lot of experience, and she's had her own show in the past. An author, and much more than that. She helps you develop your intuitive skills and more. I'd like to welcome Lisa Jones from Maui. Thank you so much for coming on air.
Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Yay. We've met before. I'm going to blow some sage, and then we're going to have you tell us about that pivotal moment in your spiritual alignment, attunement, development that propelled you somehow. Now, there's a lot of those stories. So you're telling us the spicy one first.
As
But
spicy as ever. And yeah, it's worth waiting for. Absolutely.
awesome. And for those who know the show, this is what we usually do at the end. People chat with angels. Sometimes they see, sometimes we only do a few baby steps. The stuff that happens before and after the show, people should see. Wow. Okay, here's some sage. Catch it in Hawaii. People at
Ooh.
home, ask if you've had a long day, ask for this to lift that stress off of you. Put your hand out, close your eyes, see a little bit of light on your eyelids if you want. Do any which way. Feel the vibe. Vibe out. I've never said that before. But so what will you allow for is sort of the whole point of this show. And the more you allow for it tends to be more love, not more thinking. So again, smile more, think less. Lisa, what was that pivotal moment in your life that got you jump started in this whole thing?
Well, I was absolutely taken out of my body by angels and taken to heaven. So I was inside heaven as my husband took his last breath and walked in. And it absolutely changed my life.
Ooh, okay. So what happened?
You're like, "Wait, what?" So he had been diagnosed with cancer. Actually, it was a 7-year battle, and it was a long, hard-fought battle, and we tried everything. He had 3 stem cell transplants, multiple rounds of chemotherapy and radiation to no avail, and so just the day before he died, we actually called hospice, and they arrived. They said, "He actually looks really good. He's probably not gonna go for another 2 weeks," and I just thought, "Oh my goodness." He had stopped talking, he had stopped being able to get out of bed, and I didn't know what to do. I was beside myself. Not to mention, I was very religiously inclined, and I thought he was going to go to hell because he wasn't baptized. I begged him to get baptized, and he was not interested, and, I was just, again, beside myself. So, the night, that the hospice people came, I his brother and best friend arrived. Meanwhile, I'd been doing all of this on my own with 2 young children, and I gave him a kiss on the forehead, went to bed, and I prayed to the angels and to God and just said, "Please help us. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I don't know, I can't bear the fact of him going to hell," and he refuses to be baptized. So the next thing I know, I do fall asleep, but 2 angels came and took my soul out of my body and took me up to the most glorious place that was paved with golden roads and hillsides that were beyond anything I've ever seen, colors I've never witnessed or seen. They took me up to, for lack of a better word, a castle that was immense and again gorgeous and beautiful. And the cleanliness is that's the most dramatic difference from this planet Earth. Like planet Earth is dirty compared to heaven beyond. And so they took me inside the castle and then up to this balcony where I looked down and there were all these souls coming together, and there was an announcement, the grand Mr. Ian Sharp is about to arrive, and all these souls were like, oh my gosh, he's coming, can't wait for him to be home. Choirs started singing, and then bells were ringing, and it was the most glorious moment. And then this door started to open, and all the souls looked together, as did I. And again, I was looking down upon them, and the door started to open, and he started to walk in. And right at that moment, there was a knock on the door. Lisa, Lisa, wake up. Ian just took his last breath. And it was my brother in law who had been sitting with him while I was sleeping in my daughter's room. And right at that moment, a trap door opened from heaven, and I landed back into my body. And I jumped out of bed and with such elation because it was pure unconditional love. And I knew that he didn't go to hell. And yet
Yeah.
I was completely like, wait, this is inappropriate. I shouldn't be feeling this way because my husband just died. And meanwhile, I had very little experience with death. I had lost one grandfather when I was 9, but meanwhile, my other three lived to 106, 103, 101, and they lived well beyond my husband. So it was a very confusing moment for me, I shall say. I ran down to the bedroom and saw his body and realized, it was just a shell. It wasn't him. And that I was just, hoping and praying that he had actually gone to where I had witnessed.
Now, what year was this?
This was 2004. It was February 22nd, 2004. So a lot of the amazing experience I've had are wrapped around the number 22 and 44. And he was 44 years old when he passed away.
And that part of that helped you move into a more spiritual experience, less Baptist and all the rest. Ram Dass, who you got to know, swim with, hang out with, and then I think you've even had like a shared death experience with Ram Dass. So there's a lot more to cover here. Tell us a little, practically speaking, about this experience. How did it impact you for the 20 years since? Like, do you still flash back to it? Like, does it feel like once a month, once a week, every other day?
It's an experience that lives within me and that is fully alive all the time. I can tap into it when I talk about it. I am right there, and it's so fulfilling. In fact, I just recently had the 20-year anniversary, and that day it was unlike any other of the anniversaries. I think because it was the 2-decade mark, but it wasn't that I was sad. It was such a reverence for my awakening that it had been 20 years since, and I've got chills as I say that because the angels are here with me and just affirming that for me, that it's not just that he passed away, but that was actually my awakening. And since then I've learned that we had agreed that this was going to be the plan. We agreed before we came to this earth that he would basically sacrifice himself so that I could have this spiritual awakening in this on this time.
Mm.
And he's still with me. You would not believe the things. In fact, I live in this beautiful cottage here in Maui, and I had previously been living elsewhere. And then after COVID, they raised the rent tremendously, and I was just like, oh my gosh, it was more the principle of the thing than anything, but I just was like, I can't live here anymore. And I went to the beach. I was actually having a panic attack. And I thought, well, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die at the beach. I'm not going to any hospital. But I ran into a woman I'd never met before, and I was crying. I told her my story, and she said, oh, well, my neighbor happens to have just gotten notice from their tenant. Let me introduce you. So I meet them and they say, tell us a little bit about you. And I said, well, I used to be a CPA for Price Waterhouse in San Francisco. And they said, oh, our investment advisor used to work there, Kelly Christensen. Do you know him? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was my late husband's roommate for the 2 years that we dated, which was 30 years earlier. I said he was at my wedding and he was my investment advisor after my husband passed away. So my husband is looking out for me. I call him my heavenly husband because he's constantly still here with me and guiding me every step of the way.
And the 20-year mark was just last Thursday, if I do my calendar right.
That is correct. That is
Wow.
correct. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So what's this all mean for the person watching? They could be a 40-year veteran Reiki master. They could be an intuitive healer. They could have just fallen off the turnip truck, which is all of us, on depending on the topic and the terminology, the lingo, and they wouldn't even know who Oprah is. It doesn't really matter. What's your life advice from that experience up till now? You're about to share some more flavor, but what's the sum of all the parts here? Is the sum bigger than all the parts? What's your message?
Absolutely. I think the message is, and I love it, the sunlight just came on even stronger right now, is shining light on life. I used to say shining light on death because, that's really the message, right? But people just freak out when they hear the word death. They can't handle it. So it's about just allowing yourself to truly embrace what is and to expand and to not shy away from life. I've been a medium, and the major theme that comes through is people say, I wish I had played more full out. They're concerned about their fears and about the conformity of life, and you got to just throw that off and just throw caution to the wind and live full out, because we're really here in this lifetime just this once. And so why not go full out? That's what we're here for. Once we get to the other side, it is pure love and light. I mean, that was always my fear, is this hell, right? There is no hell. The hell is created living here and not playing full out and being trapped by the routines and the worries about life. And the more that you can let go of that, shine light on your life, and be not afraid of death, because there is no death. You literally transition from this life to the next, and then you don't get to have the physicality, which is what we're here for, to touch and to feel and to create. And so that's the big message, is just shine light on life and enjoy it.
Oh, I love it. And so, if you could only love as much and have as much fun as you're already stressing, fearing, rejecting, worrying, reacting, and all the rest of the stuff that's up here, you'd actually have no more time to do any of that stuff. You'd have a lot less time.
That's right.
Okay, tell us about Ram Dass. How did you first meet him? Tell us who he is. There's a few people who aren't going to be aware. He's certainly been on a million shows when he was alive. He's sort of like, more than a Wayne Dyer figure because of his um, I'm gonna have to wing this a little. Is it Buddhism? I don't have the right expression. India,
Right, India.
spirituality. You're gonna have the right lingo, the lineage, all the rest. If you don't mind explaining it.
Absolutely. Well, Ram Dass was a former Harvard professor who ended up taking psychedelics and realizing that the expansiveness of the mind is incredible. And he ended up going to India and meeting Guru. Of course, his name just flew through my mind. I can't think of it either. Maharaji. There we go.
The
Maharaji.
Beatles hung out with him.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so yeah, it was just, and it's interesting because I'd known his name, but I didn't really, I hadn't followed him. I hadn't read any of his books. And really, to be honest, to this day, I haven't read any of his books. However, when we met, it was just, I had been on the island for 2 weeks. I was out on a whale watch, and I met a gentleman, and we were chatting, and he was talking about that he hangs out with Ram Dass. I said, well, gosh, if there's ever an opportunity, I would love to meet him and, be invited. He said, well, I just happened to have gotten an extra ticket for his fundraiser event coming up at the Mac, which seats like 600 people or something. So it wasn't a small event. And I said, great, I'd love it. So I showed up to the event, got the ticket. It was sitting right next to Ram Dass. So
Oh,
that was my introduction. And it was hilarious because he's got followers that have been with him for 20, 30, 40 years. And all of a sudden I'm sitting next to them and they're like, what is going on? Who is this person? And I don't know, we must have had a past life together or something, because then it just kept happening where we would run into each other on the island. And at this point, he had a stroke. This was many years ago. It was before I met him. So he had caregivers that were with him at all times. But it just seemed like, I'd show up at a store and his caregiver and he, were arriving, and we would say hello. And then his main caregiver took hospice training the same time I did. So that brought me even closer into his circle. So I was invited to his home, and his caregiver said, oh, we're doing a really special thing today. We'd love to have you come over. And it's an hour drive over there. And I actually just been on that side of the island when I got the message. So I had to drive back. And so, of course, I started out a little angsty. And I get there, and there was maybe just 6 or 8 of us there. And they said, okay, we're going to tie a little thread of Maharaji's blanket onto these mala bead bracelets that we're going to hand out at the next event. He used to hold these 300 people meditation retreats here in Napili. And I thought, okay. And so I'm doing it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I came all the way back out here to tie little knots on these, and then my brain was just like, the angels were like, come on, Lisa, just be of service, relax. And the moment that I did that, Ram Dass wheeled in and he said, we're going to do a ceremony. And so just the 7 of us, and he gifted us each one a bracelet that, and his eyes into my eyes, it was incredible. So that's just a little of the flavor of the time we had together. And then the day he passed, which was ironically December 22nd, 2019. So again, that 22 is really important in my life. I had actually had a nap that day, which is unusual. I don't normally nap, but that day I happened to. And when I got up, I was standing by my bed and I literally got knocked off my feet, fell onto the bed, and I said, Ram Dass, what are you doing? And I was like, why did I just say that? That was so weird. And then I get the text that Ram Dass had passed, and I was in shock. And so then the next day, so this was December 23rd, I was at a chiropractic appointment, laying on the table, and all of a sudden I felt his energy come over me. It was like a big blanket. And I just, in my mind, I said, Ram Dass, what are you doing? Go to the light. He's like, Lisa, you are the light. And he just floated his energy down upon me, and I tears of joy just floating, out of my eyes. Then I was invited to his home on Christmas Day, the 25th, to surround we got to sit with his body and pray. And so I walked over to his body, his hands were on his chest, and I laid my hands, and he's like, "Okay, are you ready? Let's go." And he just shot me out into space, took me all around the stars, and took me on a little tour of the galaxy, and it was phenomenal.
Wow. And literally phenomenal. Wow. Okay. So swimming with Ram Dass, didn't you get to do that too? It was kind of a
Oh,
thing.
yes. Yeah, that was a thing. He
Yeah.
Every Monday he would come down and go to a particular beach, Cam 3. And again, I was lucky to be invited to join them on those outings. And again, he was in a wheelchair, so he had to have help, but they had this great wheelchair that they could get him down in there, and we'd all float out there. And there was a magazine article that they did that shows a picture of us out there floating with him, but it was just, again, a phenomenal. And then generally we'd go to lunch after that, a lot of times to the Indian restaurant, and a buffet, which was fantastic. So really, really fun times.
Okay, so talk to us about how did it go from your husband's death to later, 2019, 2020, 2017, stuff like that, for mentoring others on trusting their ability to listen, pay attention, flow love, be more love. What's it all about, Alfie? How do you explain this to people that there's more than just going to a work, feeling stress, fighting for stuff, feeling, the way you feel and not so hot, and that there's actually more available instead of rinse, repeat. What is it?
Absolutely. Well, the thing that really woke me up was a week before my husband died. He was in tears and just said, I wished I had helped more people. He said, all I did was move numbers around on pieces of paper for his career. He was a tax attorney for a big corporation. And that really struck me, but I was 37, so I had 7 more years before I was approaching my 44th birthday, and that's when I woke up, because guess what? I had gone back to work, I was working at a hedge fund, moving numbers around on pieces of paper, and I thought, "I can't live one day longer than my beautiful husband and not start helping more people." Meanwhile, I was starting to channel passed away loved ones and angels, and so quietly, I was in the closet for a long time, but slowly and surely, I started sharing this talent or whatever that happened, this awakening. And it was all from the night of his, because he started talking to me that morning. After I saw his body, I then had to get dressed, blow drying my hair. And all of a sudden, he's like, "Oh my God, Lisa, I love you, but it's so awesome here." And I'm like, "What? My God, you're talking to me." And so that was the beginning of this relationship that we've had ever since, that he's with me. And so, fast forward 7 years later, and I'm working at a hedge fund, and I'm like, I've got to stop. So I stop, and guess what? I was invited to do a stage show. And it was funny because Gabrielle Bernstein, I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she was selling her book and doing a show at the Ridgefield Playhouse. So I was there in the lobby doing little card readings for people. And the woman that ran the theater said, "Oh my God, you need to have your own show." And I'm like, okay. So I got up there and I channeled, and it was amazing. I did mediumship, and then the next year I did it again, and there were over 500 people that showed up. I couldn't believe it. And then I got a radio show, Star 99.9, so I was the Monday morning medium. And then I was working on a television show, and this was 10 years after my husband died. This was 2014. And unfortunately, my mom passed away, and she was here in Hawaii on a vacation, and I had come to visit her, and we had a great time. And on the way home, I was pulling my suitcase out to my rental car, and it was as though I walked through a doorway, and I just had this knowing, and it said, "Something's going to happen to your mother, and you're going to be back here in a week." And I just was like, wait, hold up, who just said that? What's going on? I did not. I'm like, reject, reject, reject. I don't want to hear that. A week later, sure enough, she had had a stroke, and I was right back exactly in that parking lot. And so again, that was another whole shared death experience where I knew she was going to pass. She actually came to me and just said, "Oh my God, you told me we'd be able to talk when I go to the other side." And I'm like, "Yes, I said that." And so yeah, she ended up passing a week later. And again, that's another long whole story. But I feel like your question was, what is for the average person? You know, how what are they supposed to take away from this? And so it's about, not just living your life pushing numbers around on pieces of paper. It's about helping more people, how to be of service to humanity, how to love one another, how to love more and stress less, and finding your intuition, spending time meditating, turning off devices, getting away from the television, stop programming your mind with the television. It's just insane how much that programs people's minds and their thoughts and beliefs. So I haven't watched television since I've moved to Maui. I mean, I do watch an occasional Netflix show or something, but I don't watch any commercial television or anything like that. I got off social media a year ago, which has absolutely changed my life. And it's tricky, but again, it's all about loving more and finding your joy. We talked about joy earlier before we started.
Mhm.
And if you aren't following your joy, then what is the point of being here, right? So you
Yeah.
got to follow your joy.
With that, I'll put her up, but let her give you the next topic. Just say it out loud. You'll hear it. This is an angel joy for people who have never seen the show before in light energy form. You can see her full on. But what's joy got for you, Lisa, as the sort of the next segue?
Oh, yeah. She wants me to share about how to connect with your passed away loved ones or your angels. Okay. I have this great method. It's called the PALS method. Prepare, ask, listen, and say thanks. So PALS, like your pals. You want to say hi to your pals, right? And it's pretty straightforward. But the first one is prepare, right? So again, turning off devices, getting out in nature, having a pad of paper and a pencil. This is for automatic handwriting. This is how I got started. And it's one of the easiest ways to start working. And it's like a muscle, right? You've got to start practicing. So this is the best way. So that's prepare. And then ask. Ask by writing at the top of the ledger or the pad of paper, dear angels, what would you like me to know? This is how I started. You can also do it with passed away loved ones. That's a little more technically difficult, but I think angels are the most accessible because they truly, if you ask for their help, they show up. They want to be here for us. They're dying for us to ask them for help, but we got to ask. So, dear angels, what would you like me to know? That's the ask, and then listen. Listen is the hard part. This is where you have to discern that because most people are like, well, this is me. This is just my brain talking. If you spend enough time doing this, you can start discerning the vibrational difference of the what's coming through. And
Mm.
this is the part that is so fun because again, I remember teaching my mom before she passed away how to talk to her angels. And she said, well, Lisa, they told me my cancer is back. And I said, well, mom, that wasn't your angels. That was your fear. That's your ego. That's your ego trying to keep you from the truth that is actually wanting to come through. And so generally, when you first start, you get a really like a simple word like joy, like peace, like, love. And people, they want to make it more complicated, but it's really straightforward and very simple, right?
Oh, yeah. And so your mom did hear that from angels, right?
She did, but it wasn't true.
Oh, okay. It wasn't
No, no,
true.
no. It wasn't true. That was her
That,
brain
that
thinking.
was
Yeah.
early. Okay.
Yep, that was early. And then just to wrap it up, so prepare, ask, listen, and then S is say thank you. You always need to thank your angels because that just is the reciprocity of energetic exchange. And again, they're here for you for everything. And that's how I got started. I was told about angels on parking places and asking for that. And wow, I started getting them, and that's when I really started believing. So start small.
Parking places and bar stools.
There you go.
So New York, I was there for like 18 years and it's so crowded. If you would just ask or vibe out, hey, I could really use an open bar stool right now, you'd be amazed at how, or a booth opens up. And timing makes all the difference. Otherwise, 45 minutes later, you're still waiting. Did you catch sage at the beginning? Because I never asked you out loud when I was blowing and lighting sage. Did you get
Oh,
it?
right. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Absolutely.
Awesome. If you want, ask Joy for some sage flowers and the next topic. So catch something in the air, do it the
Mhm.
Lisa Jones patented paying attention way. And what are you getting right now?
Let's see. What am I getting? I'm getting something about books. I don't know.
Okay.
Do you have a book coming out or do you have a book?
I've got a Listening to Angels book out since 2014 that talks about, letting go and listening. And there's some photos, the photos of angels I just saw balls of light as I typed and stuff like that. It's not like your book though, which is the art of living happy after the loss of a loved one.
That's right.
When did you do that one?
That was in it published in 2013, and like I said, he had passed away in 2004, and I started working on it right away, but then I did meet my second husband, which I was introduced to by my first husband, and that was another just amazing story how that all came together. But yeah, I was just having so much fun. I didn't want to dive into the sadness of losing my first husband and all that. So I set it aside. And then when I came back to it, and I think it was 2012, it just flowed out of my fingers, and it landed in 2013. And it's really about my awakening, because originally the story was all about kind of my life up until my husband died. But then I was working with a book coach. She's like, "Well, Lisa, your life is way more interesting since your husband died, and all these amazing things that have happened, including my first stage show is talked about in there, and how terrifying it was to go on stage and basically not get anything, because of course I was, trying to control it, but as soon as I let it go, then the angels are there for me. So
Wild. Okay, so what's life like in Maui now, to shift a little after the Lahaina fires and stuff like that? That is a big event that's going to ripple for like, I mean, a whole decade probably.
absolutely.
What's your take, but still keeping it a high vibe? So not complaining, because I know, between the government stuff, it's the usual that can happen in a lot of places in the world, and it's a little more complex than I think people realize. What's your take on the whole thing?
Yeah, the whole thing, it was really interesting because, it happened on 8/8, and I was actually at a ceremony that night for Lionsgate, and I channeled Isis that night, and she was talking about burning away the basically the confines around our hearts. And I truly feel like that's part of what this fire was in Lahaina, was really burning away all of the it had become such a tourist spot, and it was really taking away from just the beautiful nature of this beautiful island. And again, I'm not here to say that's the truth or what happened, but that's just the energy and the information that I was coming through with. But yeah, it's been an interesting time. Again, it's so tragic for the people that lost their homes, and we still have maybe 4,000 people that are living in hotel rooms, and we just don't have enough housing for everybody to find housing at this point. So but I think it's part of the awakening. I think a lot of what's going on right now in the world, the upheaval, these fights and everything that are happening, that it's coming to a precipice to realize that we can't cohabitate this way. We have to realize that fighting is not the answer,
Hmm.
that we need to come to from a loving place. And the more that each one of us can wake up to that, the faster that we will have peace on earth.
Okay, and to that end, here's Charlotte with a tie to ancient Egypt. If you could do the topic of compassion, now it could be just a person slowing down out of their thinking daily, 7% more, a little here, a little there. What's Charlotte have as a reminder to you for a reminder to us about compassion?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think compassion starts with yourself, forgiving yourself for everything and anything that you feel like you should have, could have, would have done. And so you need to first and foremost be compassionate with yourself, but then with our neighbors. I mean, it's so difficult in this day and age, because if you have any thought that might be different from your neighbor, then it's like there's an immediate disconnect. And I think it's just about having compassion and listening more, instead of condemning or trying to change other people's opinions, and just allow people, give people grace and compassion for where they're at.
Hmm. Okay, what's a couple practices people can adopt daily that help them get to their heart more?
Well, absolutely meditation. And I know a lot of people are like, oh no, not meditation, but it's as easy, even if it's 1 minute that you just sit with your breath, it can really start to open your heart, because that's part of it. Again, just stepping away from your phone, stepping away from television, turning off your radio in the car. I mean, it's just amazing how we are so bombarded in this society with things coming in at you. I did a silent retreat for 10 days, and it was beautiful. It was here on Maui. You've heard of Vipassana, which is very strict, and well, this was K-Pasana, which was like, hey, what's happening? And we had massages, we could snorkel, we did yoga and all sorts of wonderful things in silence for 10 days. Plus we had a gourmet vegan chef there. So it was the best. And I'm telling you, by not having input, everyone thought it would be hard not to talk. That was actually quite easy. But the most benefit was that people weren't talking to me. I wasn't getting bombarded with people telling me what they want or telling me, and it was just like, wow. So just having some silence to yourself and not, just get away from people, get away
Did,
from devices and people.
did you get to see some turtles?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Uh,
We love
okay.
turtles.
I'm going to put Archangel Michael's photo up for a reminder on a topic. If you don't mind saying what you hear from him for the topic before you launch into it. So, what's he got for us all?
Oh, yes, protection.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, Archangel Michael is talking about protection. And for me, I always call on Archangel Michael to surround me in his beautiful blue light on a daily basis, just to help keep my energy clear and keep anything that's not necessary to come into my life. And so, he's just saying, just ask me. I'm here for you. I'm here to protect you and to help you every step of the way.
Okay. And permission to do Sri Shirdi Sai Baba, the one from 100 plus years ago from India.
Ah,
But if you would, or I'll get a colorized version. But if I can throw in an extra couple of balls juggling, which this actually
sure.
makes it easier for people at home, ask for an India temple incense that you couldn't get out of Amazon. Even a trip to India might not bring it to you. So let him deliver a smell. We're not lighting anything. So this
Okay.
is him bringing it to you. You may get it before I get the photo up, but here he is colorized. And you can let
Mhm.
him wink, smile. Let me steady it with two hands. Wink, smile, nod, shoulder waggle in the photo. He'll move in the photo for a split
Oh
second.
yeah, I just saw a wink.
Oh, good. And ask for some mini miracles around you if you want a couple light butterflies made out of light flying around off camera so that Lisa Jones goes a little like, oh my gosh, that's pretty. But he'll tie it together as a topic which you're going to run with. And catch that incense though, and let us know if you do get it when you get it. It's like a
Oh
temple
yeah.
10
It
meters behind you.
just came right in.
Oh
Beautiful.
yes, you're doing good. So what do you have for us? Because India's got a lot of I don't like the word magic, a lot of miracles, a lot of openness, a lot of love happening. There's a high vibe to it. But you don't have to be in India to get it. It'll come to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of my ley lines go right through India. And in fact, I was told I would never have to go to India because I've got so many ley lines that it's like I'm connected right there all the time. And, but I think part of it is the commercialism of the United States. That's what's really kept so many of us disconnected from our hearts because we're so pushed to produce and to, instead of be, it's like you have to do. And so I feel like India, again, unfortunately, because of the mass population, there's just not enough work for everybody. And but they have their spirituality. They're tapped into their hearts, and that's why there is so much magic, quote unquote, as you said, in India, which helps people, and they're happy. I mean, for the most part, I've read and heard of so many stories of people that live in these places that we would never want to live in because we're in these comfortable places, but they're still very happy. And even and in China, I've heard the same thing. Like these places where they work, there's just a joy and happiness because of the simplicity of life. And I think that's it. I read there's a book titled, I haven't read it, but it's called like Comfort is Killing Us. And I think that's absolutely true. I think we've just gotten to this almost spoiled situation where instead of enjoying the truth of life, we're just too caught up in the consumerism and the materialism. So let that go and be more simple, live in nature.
Well, I'm gonna put Ganesh up for you if that's okay, and we'll
Oh,
do the
yeah, my
same thing
favorite.
all over again.
Hmm. He already told me my topic.
Okay, good. So here's Ganesh just at home. Ask for good fortune, ask for a good flower smell in the air, ask for what you'll allow for, and let Ganesh do the rest. That's the
Um,
universal forces are in place to help you out if you just get out of your own way. Okay, what'd you get from Ganesh for all of us?
So it's removing of all obstacles and to share my story of my ayahuasca journey because I got to meet Ganesha on the journey, which was incredible. So I was
Where
doing
where were you in the
I
country,
was
in the
in
world?
Kauai. Yeah, I was in Kauai.
Okay.
And I was on a Hawaiian shamanism retreat. And it was totally thrown in last minute. I didn't even know, I'd never even heard of ayahuasca. This was back in 2012. I had no idea what it was. And I did a little research, and I was kind of leery because I don't do drugs or anything. So, but, and then my teachers had said they'd gone to Peru and done it, and they were rolling around in the dirt and throwing up. And I mean, I'm like, who wants to do this? This is insane. But fortunately, in my life, in my world, we roll up to this basically mansion. We're around a pool. All of our places that are prepared for us have white, like, sheepskin fur blankets. And I mean, it was just glorious. It was like the Taj Mahal of, an ayahuasca experience. And so then we go around and we drink the medicine, and I was again scared out of my mind. I mean, talk about fearful. uh, and I lay down, and I even called the woman. I said, "I think I'm gonna die." She's like, "Just keep breathing, just keep breathing." And so finally, it's like it was like a pea shooter, and I was the pea, and it just shot me out into space. And they said, "Oh, you're scared, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." They're like, "Okay, we're gonna scare you now." And I'm like, "Okay." And all of a sudden, this little it was a skull came out, and like the eyeball went doing, and I'm like, they're like, "Was that scary?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Okay, we're gonna," and they did it again, and it was another silly thing. It was kind of like a dad joke, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so finally they said, "Okay, if you're not scared, let's go." And so the first place they took me was to Ganesha's place, and it was just miraculous. I got to sit at Ganesha's feet and just, talk about the obstacles in my way, and what, the thing that's keeping me in my way is me and
Mm,
my beliefs, and anything that's, thinking that I'm not enough. And I was adopted as a baby, and so been a lot of work, especially more recently, about as I've gotten older. It's almost like, I'm realizing how much of a lens that I've been living my life through, that I'm not worthy, and I know that's not true. I mean, I'm even my birth mother and I have connected since my mom died, and we actually went to Sweden and found our great grandfather's farm, and I have these lovely half siblings. But it's just been interesting, these obstacles that are created from our belief system. So the more that we can release those and let those go. So that's why Ganesha wants you to know that he is the remover of all obstacles, and to allow him into your life to clear those away for you.
And back to that filter, we've got a value system. Let me do it this way. So there's the whole Zen saying thing where, a student comes running up to the Zen teacher and says something to show that they've arrived here and can graduate, basically. So there's two sayings. One is the student comes running up to the teacher. What about it when I seek to be Buddha? And the teacher says, what a tremendous waste of energy. And then the student, quick as a whip, says, well, what about it when I don't waste energy? And the teacher says, then you are Buddha. And there's another one, what's the fact of my own nature, to try to stump the Zen master? And the Zen master's like, is there anything you dislike? So my point on that is daily, we're so locked up tight, sometimes shut tight like an oyster fully, or we think we're living fully, but we're not even like close. And so that's what you were just referring to. How can a person begin to take those steps to just let go of what's safe to let go of and to allow the universe in? It's like cracking a door open and letting a little bit of light in. The door will get kicked open one way or the other. Unfortunately, car wreck, divorce, job layoff, sudden this, sudden that, trauma. But there's a lot of other ways to gently ease that door open. Can you talk to us about, the door being kicked open, the door being gently done, finding an instructor somehow?
Absolutely. Well, the first and foremost, the way to identify a place that needs to have some more light let in is anywhere you're unhappy. If you're not happy, that is a symptom of life not working for you, right? And so then what happens if you just keep pushing against this? And this is what happened to me at the hedge fund, because I realized, oh gosh, I need to leave the hedge fund. I'm going to be 44. And, but I was afraid. I was getting paid the best money I'd ever had. And, but my guides kept saying, you got to leave, you got to leave. And I just was very resistant. So then guess what? I had a coworker turn on me, which I've never had in my entire life. I am like a stellar, like A+ student and employee. Like I've never had anyone turn on me. But this coworker basically just started, I don't know what it was. I think, somehow spirit was possessing her to like kick me in the butt to get me out of there. And so then she had the boss turn against me. So it just was this cascading. And the more I resisted leaving, the more the heat got turned up.
Oh,
So I want
wow.
people to notice that in your life, if there's something you're unhappy about, if it starts getting turned up, if it gets worse and worse, that is a pure indication that this is not the right direction you need to be going, and you need to find another way to do it, right? And so anyway, so again, as soon as I quit, that's when then I was invited to be to sponsor Gabrielle Bernstein, and then I was up on stage, and then I got the radio program, and then I got the television show. I mean, it cascaded into a beautiful unfolding. Whereas when you're holding tight to something that's not working, I mean, it just gets, like you said, it kicked down the door. And then, ironically, 6 months after I left, the FBI literally knocked down the door of this hedge fund that I was
Oof.
working at. Everybody was interrogated. I would not have been implicated in any way. It was more of a technicality, but fortunately, I didn't have to go through the headache of being interrogated by, the SEC and all that, and what they ended up going through. And three of my bosses actually went to prison. Again, technicalities, not anything that they were purposely, trying to get one over on. But it was back in the 2000 when they were moving money around, trying to keep the hedge fund afloat. But I guess they
Okay.
broke some rules.
Good flavor, good story, good sharing. And now I'm going to bring you Buddha. It's just going to be artistic, but with Buddha, if you don't mind letting for some golden, we'll call it snowflakes, but you're in Hawaii, so golden warm flakes.
I get snow
Um,
up on Haleakala.
yeah, so allow for what you can allow for, but if you could allow for a chime on the air that you know is actually from like India, Vietnam, Laos, and that you're
Mm,
like, whoa, you almost have to look around because you're like, that was a pretty distinct series of those metal things in the wind.
right.
Did you get that? Did you get that?
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's good. Now at home, if you've got to close your eyes, that's fine, but do something with your hands to break your structure. Anybody at home, you're thinking too much, just it's dropping from here to here. You do it for art, you do it for music, you do it to make a salad. You're really good at that one salad. There's 10 people who are going to eat like dogs. It's all connected. It's flipping a light switch. Do you spend 10 years studying how to flip the light switch? No, you just hit it, light goes on. You're the light switch. Lisa,
That's right.
grab Buddha for something about flipping your light switch on, that when you're on, you're in your heart. What's it all about being illuminated and loving the vibe?
Absolutely. Well, again, what's coming to mind is travel, and
Oh,
really allowing yourself to get out of your comfort zone, take a detour. Go, I mean, and again, you don't have to travel like to a foreign country. Just go home a different way. Go to a different store. Go somewhere that you don't normally go. That's the oh my gosh, I've got chills. I've got my whole spine is tingling right now because you know magic doesn't happen in routine. And that's the thing. People are in such a routine that they never can allow the magic to enter, or to have that, like imagine that amazing experience. And so it's funny because I'm with a group, we meet weekly, and we just talked about taking detours home. And so the other night after the beach, I usually just come straight home. Well, I decided, no, let me go stop by the local grocery store, pick up a couple things, which I go there quite often, but never do I run into my friends. I ran into five of my great friends there that night, and I thought, this is amazing. Thank you, Spirit, for giving me this wonderful. But again, so traveling, just do something different, take a detour within your own life, or travel, go out and see the world, and experience different ways of doing things, and especially more exotic. I think that's the other thing, here in the United States, it's like it can sometimes get a little contained, and it's like we think we have it all figured out. Well, no, we don't. Go
it,
check out what other people are doing.
it's a really big universe. So practicing getting out of your own way to let it
Yeah,
show up, it can keep getting bigger. It never stops getting bigger. I'm going to have to quote an angel. Um, there's a difference between knowing and continued learning, and there's few of us that can ever fully appreciate it. We're so locked up tight with thinking that if you would
right.
just let go, you'd be shocked and shocked and shocked some more. And there's never declaring you're enlightened or anything like that.
No, no. The more you know, the more you don't know. That's what I.
Exactly. So Kapuna Auntie Margaret,
Aw,
I always describe her as love on a Hawaiian breeze. I was about to say India, but she's from Hawaii.
beautiful.
Yeah, you can put your hand out. Anybody who wants to have their hands lit up, ask for your. You can do both hands. I can't see everything, but you could do both hands, have them lit up. If you don't already heal with your hands, ask for her to open you up and feel just. If you want to feel wind and you're in a room, you can do that. Even if you're outside, ask for a wind that you know didn't come from your immediate surroundings. And the more a person breathes through their mouth, allow, allow, allow. These are all Lisa's bits of advice to all of you as well. But also, she's got the topic for you that's very Hawaiian, the aloha or something, the spirit of, the gratitude, the thanks, the everything. And are you
Yes.
feeling, seeing, and hearing her?
Absolutely. I got the wind breeze across my from my right arm, and it's been coming this way the whole time. So I
Okay,
love it. Well, and guess
what
what? She wants to share Ho'oponopono, which
oh,
I'm not sure if you're familiar.
two people did it. Jennifer McLean, that 35-year healer, mentioned it, and then someone else. And with such reverence when they talk about it, I can never pronounce anything more than 4 syllables, but I get it. It's such a beautiful step-by-step way to set the table for
Absolutely.
allowing. So
Yeah.
please share that.
Yes. Ho'oponopono is a beautiful Hawaiian, it's a forgiveness experience where you say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And the story behind it is that there was actually I think he was some sort of psychologist working in a mental health facility, and these people were very troubled, and he just could not make any progress with them, meeting with them one on one. So he decided to just look at their file in his office and say this prayer over and over, because he knows that we are one. And so when you're saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, it's you're saying it to yourself, and you're also saying it to the one that you're thinking of. And so, because again, we're one, that's just a different reflection of the oneness, how everybody is a different reflection. So therefore, within a few years, it might have even been less than that, but all of these people started coming into a much healthier mental state, and they were all able to be released and, have a life on their own. And this is all documented.
Mm.
And so this prayer is super powerful. And especially, it can be difficult if you've got a really intense situation with somebody. It's hard to say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, when you feel like they've wronged you. So the thing to do is to just start with yourself, and just for the situation, whatever it was, and just keep doing that. And I've had, a handful of situations in my lifetime where I've had it very difficult to be able to do that for another person. But over time, it gets easier. And then ultimately, if you realize anyone that you have a block with, it's a block within yourself. I mean, it's kind of like that when you want revenge, it's like you're swallowing the poison and hoping they die, right? And that's just not how it works. You gotta really take 100% responsibility for your life. That's another one too, is not getting out of the victim state. There are no victims. It's, whatever's happening in your life, you're allowing people to treat you the way they allow you. And so the more that you can take 100% ownership of your life, the better your life becomes. And that was a big one for me too. Even after years of doing this work, I went to one of my healers here, and this was maybe 3, 4 years ago, and he said, Lisa, don't you see what's going on? And I'm like, no, what? He's like, am I really going to have to say it? I'm like, yes, please. He's like, you're being a victim. And it was like he had slapped me across the face. And I just was like, oh my God, you're absolutely right. And that was a pivotal moment for me, to have
Mm.
someone just be so like in my face about it. Cause I was, I was upset that somebody did this and somebody did that, but I'd never said, please stop or whatever. And it was like, wow, that was intense.
Mm. I love this, and I love the high vibes you're sharing with everybody. I have another angel. Speaking of high vibes, if anybody wants to put a seatbelt on, Formula One's roller coaster, it could be this and this. She's really high vibe. Like, she's just intercom. Her name's Isabel. It's going to be a historical photo. It's another one of those, though. You can let the eyes become more and the smile become more. And if anyone needs feng shuing, you're a house, you have a situation. That's what she does. I don't know if it's at Maxell, the cassettes from the 1980s. There's a poster of a guy in a leather chair with glasses sitting there. And
Oh
it was
yeah.
in every college dormitory, these big speakers. It was blasting music, and the guy sitting there with like a
Right.
light blowing in
Yeah.
the wind from the
Yes.
sound. That's what
Um,
she is. So her name's Isabel. She's intercom like upon the ocean as glass, no wind, a mirror. Let her do her thing, but make a request, folks. Lisa, if you have a request to have the smoothest spring you've ever had, feel her
Yes.
like she's solar wind of love all over you. And she is beautiful. So let her just share that one topic that you go, oh, yes, I should talk about that. But is
There's
she
the
moving a little in the photo, a little more sparkle, a little more smile?
yeah, that little sparkle in her eye.
And you're feeling her, right?
Oh yeah.
Good. So make a private request. Just be like, yeah, sock it to me. I'll take all the love and angels in the world. But
Mm.
meanwhile, she's got a practical and tactical topic for us all that you are like, can run with.
Okay. Well, yeah, and it is feng shui. I mean, feng shui is one of my favorite
Yes.
modalities. And in fact, when my husband was sick and we were in Seattle, we lived in a hotel room, if you can imagine, for 9 months with two little children and my husband. And he was in and out of the hospital back and forth. But yeah, I ended up going to a feng shui class at the Gilda House for people with cancer, and it was incredible. And it was the book that they recommended was "Move Your Stuff, Change Your Life" by Karen Rausch Carter, and it changed my life. And she's so fun and funny in there. So basically, if you take a tic-tac-toe board, which is two lines down and two lines across, and so you have 9 little squares. Those are called guas, and if you can put it over the top of your home, and again, every home is different, but mine, I have a little nice square house, so it's very easy to have these different sections. And then each one has its own, um, intention about it. And so
Oh,
that's what I like. I like to say feng shui is about intention because you have your career, you have your family section, you have your money and wealth, you have, um, you know, health section, all these 9 sections. But learning about feng shui and really purposely putting things. And she's like, so in the love section, just throw a pair of pink panties, under your couch pillow if that's where your love section is. She makes it super easy and fun. You can use different colors and numbers and things like that. But yeah, I think it's really fun to look at the energy around your home, and again, keeping it clean. I mean, this is another one. Like, if your house is chaotic and it's out of control, it's a reflection of what's going on in your mind.
mm.
So it's really good if to start clearing your mind, because then it helps you. Your outside is just it's just a reflection of your inside. And in fact, when my dad died, another shared death experience, but I'll fast forward to 6 weeks after he died. He came to me, woke me up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he said, "I have a message for you." So I sat down, typed it up. He said, "Oh my God, Lisa." He's like, "I now understand." He's like, "I was hoarding money." Like, he just was trying, he was always showing me his spreadsheet with how much money he had. And I'm like, "Why are you doing this? This is so weird." But he was accumulating, right? And so he was pulling all this money in, and then because it was stagnant, he had no circulation of money. Guess what? He had some elective surgery, and his body stopped circulating. And that's why he died. And
Mm.
so he's like, I created within my body what I was doing on the outside. So it's this whole, like infinity circle. Like, what you are having in your mind gets reflected outside, and then that gets reflected inside. And to me, that's where a lot of disease comes from, is when you're not okay with
Mm.
what's going on, and allowing life to circulate around you. And so that was really powerful to me that he expressed that.
Now, a reminder to folks, don't like grab a clipboard and beat yourself up further because you're suddenly realizing, oh my God, I've been really tight about my cousin Fred or this situation. Like, don't double it. Just
No.
breathe, smile, and find a way to gracefully, with fun and joy, address something from
Yes.
the heart. It's
Yeah,
figuring out the heart is this, the brain is blah.
that's
And don't be bad about the brain. You're not getting rid of thinking. It's just seven. I'm going to quote an angel named Charlotte. We'll let her kick a topic out. She says just 7% less thinking a day is the Olympic gold medal, the enlightenment level. I think that's
wow.
an hour and a half. Like, do yoga, hug the dog, hug a tree, do something, touch soil. But what's Charlotte have for the next topic?
Yeah, I'm getting like the interaction with others, like you said, about, just really just allowing yourself to be more expressive and to go out there. And like you said, I don't want any of this to be admonishment for what's going on. It's just awareness, right, of what's happening, and where are you happy, where are you not happy, and then just start slowly but surely working on those areas that you aren't happy. And a lot of that is interacting with other people and finding people that you vibe with, and maybe you've outgrown the group of people that you're hanging around with. Or maybe, again, if you hate your job, first and foremost, just find something in your job that you love and focus on that part, because what you focus on expands. And so it's not that you have to leave your job, but just really focus in on what you really enjoy and allow that to take over. Most of us find things that we don't like, and then we complain about it, and then we complain to others about it, and then it just becomes, again, this cyclical loop that just expands, expands, expands. And
Hmm.
so instead, go and talk to people and interact with them about things that you love and enjoy, and watch that expand.
So how you spend your energy is how you spend it, but paying attention to which type is it from up here? Is it more conscious, more love, or is it less conscious, less love? Not that you have to judge it too much. Just let it go. And you're going to repeat some of both. But the goal
Totally.
is to figure out more here so you have more fun and others have more fun. Okay, I'm going to
Absolutely.
get you that tiger, the Divine Mother. We can do the Divine Mother real fast too. I just have to find that photo. It's a statue. And give me 1 second. It's a very serious looking small statue. We'll just do the Divine Tiger underneath her. Action, this one on the wall. On everyone's team, and if you want to hear a jungle roar, like catch the highest vibe jungle from India in the air, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, it's thicker, it's nice, it's comfy. But you'll hear him roar in the distance. He's action, action, action. If you want to put a hand out like you have a giant 3 foot tall dog, and you can feel him walk by underneath your hand and you'll feel soft fur.
Yes.
Yeah, and get a nuzzle. You might get a lick or something. Hold on, let me get my elbow off the laptop. What does the tiger have a reminder about action, setting intent, and letting the universe do its part?
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, and just knowing that you are protected again, it's like, oh yeah, right behind you there on your wall, I see it. Yeah, just to imagine that you have this beautiful tiger that's with you and can help guide you, and start talking to it, communicate with it. I mean, that's another thing. Animals here on this planet are, they are enlightened beings. That is their job. They are unconditional love. They are just working. They are from heart. They work from heart. They don't
Mm.
they don't think as much as they just,
They're the only ones that know what they're doing.
that's exactly right. That's
I
exactly
mean, I mean, we know what we're doing, sort of, but then even then, when you're doing the accounting, was it really like what you should be doing? I mean, yes, pay
exactly.
the bills in a sense, but there's
Yeah,
more. That's the
there is
message.
more. Absolutely. Absolutely more.
Okay, I'm gonna get you Jaguar in repose. So Jaguar can be very, solo, walk your path, tough like authentic self, fluidity, and also repose. If we could just use one photo for all the above.
Wow.
And so feel what she's got to offer you right now. And if you want to do the double hands like she's a fireplace, catch Jaguar coarse, coarse, coarse fur, but it's still somehow going to feel comfortable. Sorry about this. It'd be like a wire brush.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and get a big whoosh down your back while you're
Yeah.
at it and say, "Oh my gosh." And then if you don't mind sharing what this is all about. Like,
Well, it's
yeah.
so crazy. Yeah, it comes right back to that ayahuasca experience, because here I was, laying there on this in this beautiful place in Hawaii, and feeling like I'm gonna die, right? So I started saying goodbye to my husband, kids. I mean, I was like, well,
Oh,
guess
that's
what? The
awesome.
next morning, I call my husband, and because he knew what was going on, and I said, he's like, "Oh my gosh, I want to hear all about it." He said, "But first, I have to tell you about this dream I had last night." He said it was as though it was real, because I woke up, but it was like in our bedroom, and I walked down to the back door. I opened the door, and a jaguar jumped over my shoulder. Well, I didn't know until I told my shaman teacher, but the jaguar is the representation of ayahuasca. And it was exactly the same time that I was saying goodbye that this jaguar jumped over his shoulder. So once again, it to me, this is how amazing and how mind-boggling spirit works. That here I am, in Kauai saying goodbye to my husband, and literally the jaguar jumps over my husband's shoulder to say, "Hey."
Okay, can I don't know how to say this. This is like a lightning round in a game show. Can I gift you a tiny little experience? It's fun. But just hear it from angels. Joy should be like, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
but I'll
For
put Charlotte up. What does she say? Like, yes, duh.
sure.
Okay, and then Michael, just to get a final. Oh, here, I'll do Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel.
Oh yes, my
Okay,
person.
So folks at home can do this as well. Now you're gonna have to go loosey goosey. You got to ignore me. You got to ignore Hawaii. Don't ignore Hawaii and Lisa. We got Lisa Jones in Maui. She's awesome, and her website beingofloveandlight.com. But you can just put Lisa Jones in Hawaii, and she'll come up right away. Okay, so cup your hands like you've caught a butterfly, but off camera, put it in your lap. And
Right.
later, you're gonna do something with those hands. You're gonna open it up like a book or a platform, but not now. Breathe extra for everybody at home. Let angels, your relatives, figures from India, Native American chiefs come in and light your hands up. It's just love. They'll make something out of light. It could be a butterfly. So we're talking 3D, 5D, whatever that is. It could be a running gazelle, a lot of butterflies, damselflies, dragonflies. It could be just a rotating lotus flower made out of 19 colors, three of which are not available as humans, but you saw it before on the other side. So the point is something three-dimensional. It's going to vibe out in your hands. Close your eyes if you want. I'm not looking at you, Lisa, so I don't know if you've already done that. Breathe extra. And as you are doing this, at some point it's going to crescendo and you're going to get a tap on the shoulder, a kiss on the cheek. The husband gives you a kiss and says, now's the time to look. You'll look down and you'll actually see it. If it's meant to fly, follow it around as a fly. It could be a hummingbird. And if it's meant to be smushable later and you're done looking at it, put it in your heart and you're going to get the biggest hug in the world.
Hmm.
And what do you get if you don't mind sharing? You're on a show, so I got to press you.
I know. I was gonna say it's not at all. It wasn't any of those things, but it was a buffalo, if you can imagine that.
Like a mini buffalo,
Like,
obviously.
yeah, a little
Yeah.
mini buffalo. It's like, oh, what is that weight? There isn't there a weight buffalo?
Yeah. A
I'm
very
not.
sacred
Yeah,
buffalo. Yeah.
yeah, very sacred. So that I think that's what it was, or and it's funny because my hands were literally sparkling when it opened up. So
Okay, well, all I know is you're in a flow. We'll wrap it up in a second and we'll let you like finish with three big points for us. But I'm going to give you three Native American chiefs. They're super down to earth, duh. What could I tell you? Unconditional love, help you get from point A to B. They're fun. Dull Knife, Red Shirt, Geronimo, real. Dull Knife was Cheyenne, Red Shirt was Lakota Sioux chief, and Geronimo was Apache. They're just love. It's wisdom, compassion, and action. But here's Dull Knife again, wisdom with some humor. And you
Mhm.
can catch a scent. I don't have to light sage for him to bring in one of those 50 cedar, sweetgrass, juniper.
Yeah.
And you're on the island of Hawaii. What are you getting that you know you couldn't have gotten there?
Yeah, definitely getting that juniper, um, yeah, kind of
Okay,
evergreen scent.
let him give you a compliment. You don't have to share that out loud. That's private to you.
Mhm.
And then let him give you something that just a reminder to us all.
Oh my goodness. So this is crazy and I feel almost tearful. But when I was a little girl in Colorado, I used to have Indians come to my window at night and it would freak me out. And he just said, I never intended to scare you.
And get one more big hug. If you don't mind, just do this, but he'll give you a hug around the shoulders plus some angels.
Yes.
Okay, good. And then
Thank
Red Shirt's the gentlest mom in the world. Compassion, compassion, compassion. I'm not doing a manly description here, but anybody with a health crisis, job layoff, divorce, they always gravitate to him. He's so soft spoken. That's a
Mhm.
U.S. presidential medal. Day after the photo was taken, he and Geronimo, White House, Pennsylvania Ave, horseback parade. Super sweetie, just amazing.
Mm.
Get something private, personal. But if you could, get a reminder again for us all that living is what it's all about.
Absolutely. It's living and it's also grounding is what I'm getting. He really, if you're not familiar with how grounding techniques, to like call in, um, you call in light through the top of your head, but have it come all the way down through your feet and then uh, grow roots through your feet down into the earth, because that's what a lot of us, especially on a spiritual journey, we're always up here trying to connect with this higher being stuff, but we need to be here on the planet earth in order to actually manifest and to create. So be sure to ground. That's what the message was for everybody.
And that's what allows the two-way, because you could have it
Yes.
all up here, but not real. And by that, I mean in your heart, having a blast, but not
Yeah,
realizing that it's like having a wheel pop out of the mechanism and you're spinning, but you're not actually making everything move.
that's exactly right. That's exactly
Okay. Now, Geronimo, two ways.
Woo.
Young Geronimo, action like a lightning bolt, dry wit humor. The first two were formal, proper, yes, no, formal. He's
Mhm.
like, yeah, nah, just do it. Like, duh.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you got from him?
Oh gosh. Yeah. Again, he's like, just get out there and play all out. He's like, life is too short to play small. Go big or go home.
Ah, okay. And then I have older Geronimo. So if you don't mind at home, one more seatbelt because people who are finally opening up or have already been open for 30, 40, 50 years, this one is going to knock your socks off, kind of like Isabel, that angel. Here's older Geronimo.
Oh, wow.
And have everybody get a reminder to just how to walk a smoother path.
Yeah, wisdom. Wisdom is coming through big time. And so yeah, it's about trusting your heart and not allowing, influences around you to persuade you to do anything other than your own true wisdom.
Okay, let Joy, Michael, Charlotte, and Geronimo vie and maybe go kumbaya together. You don't get any photos, but what's the one reminder that they're all giving you that can start us off for your conclusion for everybody?
Uh, well, that we are all one and it's all about love at the end of the day. That's what it's really all about.
Okay, so I don't have to live in Hawaii to say aloha or mahalo. What's your favorite Hawaiian expression if it's one of those or another? You shared the other prayer with us, but what's something also that you love to say because it does slow your roll up here to get you here?
Yeah, absolutely. Aloha is my favorite. I say it on the phone and people giggle when I say, when they're on the phone and, I say hello and goodbye with aloha. But aloha, just to explain a little, is the Hawaiians would actually meet with and they would put their forehead to forehead, nose to nose, and then aloha was sharing breath with one another. And so it's really an important, and then interestingly, when the white person came, they called us howlies, which was no breath because they didn't meet one another and share breath with one another. And so again, that's that separation instead of coming together and sharing together. So aloha is a beautiful expression and it really means sharing breath with one another. So, it's community, getting together, things like that.
Well, Lisa Jones in Maui, what a treat. I mean, fabulous. I can feel the vibe the whole time. Your details will be below the video. We're excited to have you back on. I'll extend the invite, even though this is coming out May 26th, episode 71 of the APL show. You're already invited to be on the APL Spotlight series. We'll wait a couple months after May. We'll get it recorded and it'll come out right away. So prep new material for us. Get ready to have even more fun with angels. You've been a delight to have on the show. What's one final anything? Someone else's book to check out, something that you just are still discovering every day, like as a reminder that it never stops. How do you stay fresh? How do you stay open? How do you challenge yourself to have more fun?
I love it. I love it. One of the books that I most recently finished is called The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck. And
Okay.
that really has rocked my world. I've shared it with a handful of friends and it's rocked their world as well. And it's about telling your truth always and not compromising on that. And she just does a masterful job of allowing us to really come again into our own wisdom and to live the life that we're meant to be here. So that's my latest recommendation for books. I love reading and getting new perspectives from other people.
Oh, I love it. Well, you've been a fantabulous guest. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your patience. Aloha and mahalo, Lisa Jones. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a joy. It's been such a pleasure. And thank you for all the fun gifts that you've given through the video. It's amazing.
See you again soon.
Aloha.